This episode of Nerdist News is sponsored by Hotel Artemis. How Solo is forcing Disney to rethink its Star Wars strategy. Solo, a Star Wars story, dropped over the long holiday weekend, and though Han did in fact make the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, although he rounded down, his Solo film did not make big box office numbers on a 3-day weekend, or at least they weren't nearly as big as Disney and Lucasfilm would have hoped, considering Solo clocked in as the most expensive Star Wars film to date, thanks to its extensive reshoots. And though a $103 million debut for any other movie or franchise would largely be viewed as nothing to sneeze at for a Star Wars film released over a long weekend, and considering that the 3 other Star Wars films under Disney each made over $150 million in their opening weekends, $103 million is a bit of a disappointment. But how and why did Solo perform so far below box office expectations, and what does this mean for the future of Star Wars? Let's break it down. In terms of the first question, you can pretty much take your pick of reasons because there are almost too many things that contributed to the dismal dinero. First off, The Last Jedi was released only 5 months ago. By any galactic standards, that is not a long time. There's no doubt Disney was trying to put Star Wars on the multiple films per year schedule that has worked so well for the Marvel movies. However, with Solo being released so close to Episode 8, it answered the question of whether audience fatigue is real for the franchise, and the answer appears to be a resounding yes, and that the copy and pasting of the MCU's model onto Star Wars doesn't work, at least not yet. And to dip into nostalgia for just a sec, remember the excitement and hype that used to be built around a Star Wars film? People camping out outside movie theaters in hopes of getting a ticket to the lightsaber battle? Well, that hype gets just a bit diluted the more Star Wars films get released in close proximity to each other. These days, home releases come only a few months after theatrical releases, which means if Disney is dropping multiple Star Wars films in a year, fans won't go more than 3 months before the next new Star Wars is in their eye holes and ear holes. Giving the fans a longer break between new films allows for time to watch, rewatch, speculate, and rewatch. Also, a break lets that hype level build back up for the next big release. And speaking of big releases, we're officially only a week into summer, but it feels like it's been summer blockbuster season all year. The box office giant Black Panther hit theaters in February, Avengers Infinity War was in April, Deadpool 2 was only last week, and after Solo, the blockbusters just keep coming with second installments from The Incredibles and Jurassic World around the corner. This is the most crowded summer movie season we've had in a while, and cramming in a spin-off Star Wars film, even one centered around a popular character, means the hype train might just breeze through the Solo station without making a stop. So with audience fatigue, a packed summer movie calendar, and simply too many big Disney movies all coming out, what does Solo's slow opening weekend mean for the franchise's future? Is this the end of the Star Wars story standalone films? Well, despite all of the doom and gloom of naysayers saying the franchise is over, we think the franchise is much more than any one film's success or perceived failure. The last 3 Star Wars films each made over $1 billion for Disney, and while Solo may not be the box office gold that Disney was hoping for, it still did perform. And in a string of blockbuster movies every week, not every single one is gonna be a mind-blowing game changer. Luckily for Lucasfilm, the long wait for Episode 9, which drops Christmas of next year, will give Disney strategizers a nice long time to figure out how not to oversaturate the box office market. In addition to Episode 9, Lucasfilm will also be taking on Boba Fett and Obi-Wan films in the future, which could see storytelling changes based on what worked and what didn't with Solo. In any case, despite Solo's relative low stakes for the overall Star Wars universe, the film was a stumble and a learning experience for Lucasfilm. But what do you folks think? Why did Solo struggle to compete with every other blockbuster we've had this year? What does this mean for the other standalone Star Wars films? And what do you think Han converted Lando's cape closet into? Let's discuss. Also, thank you to Hotel Artemis for sponsoring today's episode. You can check in, but good luck checking out of the Hotel Artemis. Why, you ask? Well, because it's a secret hospital for criminals in a near-future dystopia operating on a code of trust and rules. But what could possibly go wrong when the biggest criminal of them all, played by Jeff Goldblum, checks in and breaks those rules? Find out how it all goes down in this action-filled sci-fi thriller. With an all-star cast including Dave Bautista, Jodie Foster, and Charlie Day, Hotel Artemis checks into theaters June 8th.